Wednesday night. What's going on, Stefanos?
Just relaxing on a Wednesday. That's about it. Lots of craziness, but other than that, we're good. No, you got no mic.
Lots of craziness, you say. Okay, well, what craziness we going to cover tonight?
Where do you want to start?
Up to you, man. You're the one that was on outside a few days ago.
Yeah, so, okay, we can go. Let's touch on Polyev really quick. I sent you a link there. I don't know if you got that. About him wanting to use the notwithstanding clause and strip us of our constitutional rights for 5 years at a time.
The principle of a fair justice system is proportionality. And when you kill 6 people to be eligible to go back on the streets only 25 years later is not only disproportionate, but it is a violation of the charter rights of the victims and of their families. And I will use the charter to protect the charter.
Politicizing certain issues with respect to fundamental rights is a slippery slope that leads to further politicization.
So, did you hear that crap? I don't know if anybody could hear what he was saying there or not. The volume was a little bit low, but what bullshit. Did you hear that crap? If I'm not mistaken, I think he said that when people murder 6 people and they're out in 25 years, that doesn't happen. If there's 6 people, they're never getting out. That's an all-out fucking lie, period. He's lying his ass off. And, I should have had my Trump hat on. I could have done Lion Pierre, but I won't do that. He's a freaking liar.
The principle of a fair justice system is proportionality. And when you kill 6 people to be eligible to go back on the streets only 25 years later is not only disproportionate, but it is a violation of the charter rights of the victims and of their families. And I will use the charter to protect the charter.
Politicizing certain issues with respect to fundamental rights is a slippery slope that leads to further politicization. Being tough on crime, and being tough starts with being smart on crime. And it includes being tough on guns and gun violence. And I note that, with regret, that Mr. Polyev has voted against every single gun control measure during his very long career as a career politician and member of the House of Commons. I think it's over 200 times.
We were looking at ways to close down its use or to restrict its use because it's deeply problematic that.
So now you heard that bullshit. So he's just lying, straight up lying. Carney actually is right. I can't believe I said that, but he's actually right on that. And it is a slippery slope, and it's a real damn slippery one. And that's the only thing I'm saying he's right on, nothing else.
Well, did you hear how Carney is saying how bad the Conservatives are going to be to the people that have been jailed? And they've sent letters, or I don't know.
Nope. Don't even repeat that. That's a all-out lie. Larry Brock and those 2 other candidates that went and said that got caught. That's total bullshit. They didn't do any of that. It's a forged letter that they started circulating. Then they said it was the Liberals that done it. When they asked why they said it was the Liberals, silence. They won't say anything. They've been caught lying. I made a post about that a few days ago. But all lies, that's all bullshit. They got caught being dishonest. And just like I said, if they're doing dishonest shit now, before they're elected, we just went through 9 years of bullshit corruption. What are these goofs going to do when they get into office? if they're already doing this before they even get elected.
Hey, Kevin's watching the show. I can't believe it.
Is he? Oh my God, I can't believe that.
I'm surprised he's a busy boy. Anyways, yeah, these gun laws are bullshit. You know, too bad nobody stood up in 78 or 79 when Pierre Elliott commie Trudeau, and he was a commie. No, he was leading the Communist Party of Canada. It was Maurice Strong that took him out of the Communist Party and says, "Hey, we're going to turn the Liberals into a Communist Party, and that's what you have." And what's all this elbows up shit? I don't get it.
I don't know. It's more like elbows down, asses up, because they're going to get reamed no matter who gets elected this time around.
Yeah, we're looking at dark days. So, you know, on the weekend, I was told I have to vote Conservative. I'm wasting my vote if I vote for an independent or a libertarian. Or, you know what, even the PPC, as much as I hate to say it, it's been told to me that Max was, now this is just a rumor, that Max was funded by the Liberals to run as a vote splitting agenda back in 2018. Rumor. I don't know if it's true.
Yeah, they were saying that, not that he was funded, but they helped set up the party and get it off the ground. But that aside, let's just put an end to this right now. There's no such thing as vote splitting. In order to split a vote, you have to have the vote first. And there's no such thing as vote splitting. You hear it every single election that we are in. You hear it all the time. Vote splitting. No, that's all bullshit. There's no such thing as vote splitting. You need to have a vote before you can split it. But Pierre, let's get back to him in that video. He wants to use the notwithstanding clause. You hear what he said? He wants to use the charter to protect the charter. What kind of stupid ass comment is that? I'm going to strip you of your constitutional rights so I can protect the charter? No. The charter is there. Let's just say it this way. The Constitution is there to prevent government from becoming tyrannical, because governments are tyrannical by nature. So it's the checks and balances that keep a government from becoming tyrannical. Section 32, 1, A and B, somebody asked me what it's about. In short, that is the power control there that keeps the government in check, to keep from government overreach. And what this piece of shit dictator communist Polyev is trying to do, Pierre is trying to freaking strip us all of our rights for 5 years at a time, so he can do whatever the fuck he wants to the criminal code. Now, we said already, we had a bad precedent set with Powalski and everybody else, and you've seen how it's been weaponized. That ruling has been weaponized, and they're using it against everybody. But there's only one person, and that's Chris. He's the only one who's smart, asking for a stay of the proceedings. But there needs to be a constitutional challenge here, because what they were doing, they've gotten charged, convicted for doing something that was ruled already legal and constitutional by a judge. So that's fucking crazy that none of these stupid lawyers that these guys had done anything to challenge it in a constitutional challenge. That's just beyond insane to me. These are lawyers. They should know. Anyways, I'm not even going to get on that. But, you know, can you imagine they strip us now of our constitutional rights for 5 years in a 4 year term? 5 year term, technically, but it can be, usually it's 4 and then they call an election. But can you imagine stripping us of those rights? And then there's a protest like there was in Ottawa. You're all going to jail for fucking life sentences and mandatory sentences. So now you're screwed, because as soon as you're convicted, you have no rights. So cruel and unusual punishment is not there anymore. You're not protected by any of your fundamental rights. So you're screwed at that point. These guys will do whatever the freaking hell they want and screw you over for the slightest thing. You're going to do a life sentence because they've just stripped everything. There's nothing there. And they try to use the excuse because they're going to be tough on on crime. 6 murders and you're out in 25 years? Get out of here, you fucking lying piece of shit. That guy's, don't even get me started. I hate that guy with his cross-eyed weasel look and his freaking, oh my goodness. Anyways, he's lying. You don't protect the Constitution by stripping your rights away from people. That's actually going against the Constitution and weakening it and eroding it because now you have no rights. So this is, you got to watch weasel dictators like that who lie and make these types of speeches and claims up. Clearly he doesn't know. And he says that these people are infringing on the families and stuff, on their Constitution. Another lie. He clearly does not know anything about the Constitution, doesn't know how it works. Like I said, you can violate my constitutional rights all you want, and there's nothing I can do about it. Constitution only applies to government. Doesn't apply person to person. Only government and its agencies, and that's it. Nothing else.
Okay, so I don't know. I'm going to clarify this one more time. So the Constitution is a limit on government powers, including the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, correct?
Okay, so the Constitution is there to prevent the government from becoming tyrannical. So doing anything tyrannical, any government overreach, anything, it's there for a challenge. Now, and that's to prevent them from doing. So checks and balances is what it is. The checks and balances to keep a government from becoming tyrannical. Because governments by nature are tyrannical. There's always that wanting that power, and you see it all the time. All these political parties growing government, growing bigger, bigger, bigger. None of them ever shrink it. Only libertarian government would shrink it. But the rest of them, no, they all grow it. It's crazy.
Case in point, what happened in Argentina? Milei's a libertarian leader.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Well, apparently a third or half the government employees got fired. People were pissed off. Just like, say they had guards working at the presidential palace. They had like 70 guards on the payroll full time. Meanwhile, they only had 4 working at a time. There's not enough days in the week to employ all these people. A lot of them showing up. And this is going over and over on, going on and on and on. People are getting pissed off. Look how they're wasting our money, wasting our resources. They had 120 or 130 years of corrupt governments. And it just went on and on. And Argentina used to be one of the second or third wealthiest countries in the world. If you go back 130 years ago, there was actually a superpower. The architectural stuff that was built 130 years ago, it's still standing. The roads, the infrastructure, it's still there. And it was one hell of a country to live in. Like even the Nazis said, okay, we know there's corruption in Argentina, but let's go down there anyways. It's a safe place to hide. And that's why I got guys like Hitler that went down there, allegedly. And many other members of the Nazi party. They surrendered U-boats down there. Then the Americans blew them up or took them or whatever. They were stripped clean, of course, when they handed them over. But the war was over, and you know, even what we hear about Nazis, how much of it is true? Because they lost the war. We all know that the who was it at the end of the war? There was one general, and he even said after the Second World War was over, he says we fought the wrong enemy.
Oh, you're talking Patton. Yes, he wanted to go straight into Russia. He wanted to wipe everybody right out, right then and there, and put an end to it. He knew. He's not dumb.
And then what happened to him?
He ended up getting killed. A lot of conspiracy says they planned his death, but it was an auto accident. But they said it was planned. So there is, even his wife claimed that it was set up like that. But they needed to shut him up, and they shut him up. They started, silencing him.
Well, it's just like GFK was Mossaded or Clinton sided. It's one and the same, right?
Yeah. So look at Milei in Argentina, like you were saying. You know, he went in his first day in office. He over half of government he got rid of, because you got the stupid shit that we have here. They were doing all the stupid crap over there that they were doing here. Socialism doesn't work, never works. That's communism. And they had stupid minister of biodiversity, garbage, this crap, that crap, this, all this garbage that you don't need. He got rid of all of these things. And, you know, they're all bureaucrats. I have no problems if I was in office getting rid of bureaucrats. Because I'll tell you something that a lot of people don't understand. And they don't know because they've never been involved directly in government. And a lot of the time, legislation that's created, it has a good intent to it. And it would actually be a good piece of legislation. But the problem is, once a legislation's created and the bill passes, it ends up it's bureaucrats who write the regulation to that legislation. And the regulation is where it all goes wrong, because the bureaucrats come up with this crap garbage and turn it into a communist thing. But this is why I always say, name me one thing that government's touched that hasn't turned into shit. There is none. Nobody can. I'm still waiting for an answer.
Okay, I can't come up with an answer either. Let's change the subject.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. And the PPC stuff you were saying, yeah, that's what I heard too. I've seen them a lot of talk. I had people in that party. I actually helped them get off the ground, and just the 1 year when they first got on. And then I found out all what was really going inside that party, and I kept quiet for a long time, but not this year. No more keeping quiet. And if you look at the candidates, some Dina broad in, I think it's Niagara on the Lake, the candidate there for the PPC. Look at her platform. She's got it on her website. I've posted it. Took a screenshot of the website, posted it. It's globalist, UN garbage, feminism garbage, climate change, environmental garbage, attack on private property rights. You know, when they say they're going to protect farmland, well, you're going to try to protect farmland, you have to own the farmland. You don't own it, you can't plan for it. Period. They can't do anything. When those patents were Crown Land patent grants were given out back in the 1800s, what's that tell you? It says that removes all right, title, and interest from the government from that property. So who gives a shit if a farmer's got 1,000 acres and he's sick of cash cropping? He wants to build houses there. That's his right. We've sat on several Supreme Court of Canada cases as interveners, and the Lynch case is a classic case against the city of St. John's. And the judge, right in that ruling, says that a private property owner has a right to develop their lands. And then that was an expropriation without compensation case that conservation was trying to take, because they were saying, oh, it's a watershed. Well, guess what? If you want that watershed on my property, I own the water under it, what's passing through it, and anything above it is mine, owned by me. And if you want it, you have to buy it from me. So I can't take it and say, oh, this is water. Oh, it's for the greater good of the municipality or whatever. No, piss off. Doesn't work like that. The greater good is communist. The individual right is not communist, and that's the way it should be. Because when you protect the individual right, you protect everybody's right.
Interesting, and I bet you a lot of people don't even know about that case. Why is that kept so quiet?
It's a big case, and the other big case that we just won, what was it, in 2024 there, we were intervener on, was the Annapolis case. And that was a developer with 1,000 acres. And, 1,000 acres of land to be developed, and the municipality decided they started telling all the people, Go to that land, use it. It's a park. Go ahead and use it. So they're counseling people to a crime because they're all trespassing, which they can't do that. So they ended up going to court and they won. They can't do that. They can't declare because it's 1,000 acres and because they think that they have the power to say, no, you're not going to build any homes or anything else. That's crazy. It's insane, man.
Back to the notwithstanding clause. Was it Brian Peckford? They tried to use that. They threw that in his face when he went to court, didn't they?
No, I don't think they did. Did they? No, I'm pretty sure they didn't use a notwithstanding clause there. I didn't really follow his. I remember asking him the question, though, if he regrets having that notwithstanding clause in there. But you see, when you're a dictator or a tyrant and you're serving your time in office and you come up with a horrible piece of legislation such as the charter to insert into the Constitution, because just so we're clear, the charter is not our Constitution. The charter is only a section in our Constitution, and that charter, the notwithstanding clause, only applies to the charter section. That's it. It doesn't apply to the rest. So they cannot strip anything else from there. But you see how much of a weasel move. See what's in the charter. Unlawful search and seizure, stuff like that, protest, stuff like that. If they want to use that notwithstanding clause, you just lost those rights. And they're inalienable rights, so, that's not right. That notwithstanding clause, the charter needs to be challenged itself and have that notwithstanding clause removed. Because if you have inalienable rights, that means they cannot be removed. They can't be voided. Inviolable rights do not get voided. So this is the kind of hypocrisy that these tyrants, when they're in office, or bureaucrats, or no, they're not bureaucrats, they're just tyrants. When they're in office, they end up having to make these legislations, weasel ways to get around on how they can screw the people over. So again, tyrannical. So what happens? They come up with the notwithstanding clause, throw it in, and then years later turns around to bite them in the ass. And that's a classic thing. I see it with bylaws all the time with mayors and municipalities and everything. And we see it with Peckford too.
So people are always wondering, why do we have to pay so much tax? Well, income tax was not brought into Canada. It was 130 years ago they brought it in. And apparently at that time it was only voluntary. Look what it's come to now.
Yeah, and here's a good one. Remember when Patrick Brown was in, the head of the PC party? He was saying he was going to make a what would he call it? Income neutral tax. So a tax that, revenue neutral. That's what it was. A revenue neutral tax. So the government wouldn't make no money. So, it wouldn't cost you anything because you'd be getting all the money back. Well, my question is, why the fuck would you make a tax that you make no revenue off of? That makes it makes no sense. Just like using the Constitution to protect the Constitution, or the budget will balance itself. These are retarded things that make no sense. Yes, I use the R word. And you know what? Who's just as retarded? Freaking loser Pierre Poilievre, because what did he say? He said the same thing. The carbon tax would be revenue neutral. So let's say for some crazy reason they made a tax up that's revenue neutral. Sooner or later, like the income tax, somebody's going to get in there. Some political party will get in there, and eventually they're going to say, well, guess what? It's not revenue neutral anymore. Pay, and it'll just go up more and more.
Another thing I want to address, this, a lot of people are too old to know this, but I was born in the 60s. People are born in the 50s. They did quite well for themselves because taxes were very low up until 72. Now, what happened in 71, 72? Well, Trudeau got rid of our banks, gave it to the Rothschilds, whole kit and caboodle. Now, had he not done that, I think they would have pulled a Muammar Gaddafi or JFK'd him, or pulled an Iran on him or a Syria on him. What am I getting at? All wars are banker wars. All of them, every single one. It's always about the bankers, how they're going to print fiat money. And basically, they've enslaved us, and we don't even know it. Any comments on that statement?
No, you're absolutely right on the money there. There's no need for any comments on that one. That's true 100%.
So I also heard that Mark Carnage, and that should be his real name because that's what he's going to do to this country. He did it to England already, screwed up their banking system, made a lot of those people much poorer. In the UK, drove inflation through the roof, real estate prices through the roof. You don't believe me? Talk to anyone that lives in the UK right now, unless they're an immigrant or a refugee, because they're doing very, very well. Oh, what was the point I was going to make? Oh, yeah. He wants to double the amount of money that Canada spends on the military. Military. It's a damn DEI that stopped all the people from signing up and joining because they were getting weeded out because they didn't fit the DEI quotas. So if you're not gay, if you're not bi, tri, if you're not, I don't know, furry, they won't accept you in the military. That's why we're so not like so many people are down. So what do they want? They want they don't want white males, according to the DEI.
They want cans of tomato juice and tampons shipped to the front so they can use them for their periods.
You know what? We shouldn't even be laughing about this because China's buying everything up in Canada. Everyone's buying up the resources in Canada. If you don't think China's buying up and getting a good deal on the resources by getting them for next to nothing, there's like a Hibernia project in the St. Lawrence. They keep this one real quiet. China is drilling for oil, extracting oil in the St. Lawrence right now as we speak, 24/7. We're not getting any royalties for it. How do you like that for Canadians first?
I'll do you one better. You keep hearing the PC party, and now you heard Doug Ford chirp about it. First, it was Patrick Brown. We're gonna get all the resources out of that ring of fire. That's a big one. That's a big one. And you see, the ring of fire, at least while Patrick Brown was in it, it's gonna be no different with Ford. You can bet your dollar on that. China was to be the one that takes the resources out. Now China gets it for free. We, the Canadian people in Ontario, will be paying for the extraction of it, and we're going to be paying for when they ship those resources out, and then we import them back, we're going to pay again. So this is how crazy this crap is. That's what they do to us. It's just like the hydro. We pay the loss. You're muted.
Keep talking. I'm going to bring up the Ring of Fire. I'm going to go dig up that map so people know where it is. I was actually up there in 2009 actually, or 2008. I was up there on the actual Ring of Fire. Full flake.
Did you have Johnny Cash's tune playing?
Say what?
Did you have Johnny Cash's tune playing while you were up there? Burns, the Ring of Fire.
Actually, I think he's referring to another Ring of Fire. But it's we went. The three of us went up there. It was a pilot, myself, and another friend of mine that I've done a bunch of work for up there. And he says this is the smallest plane that's ever landed up at McFolds Lake in the winter on the ice runway. They were shocked.
Little tiny plane. Your little plane.
My little 182 was up there, yeah, with three of us in it.
Nice.
Anyways, keep talking. I'm gonna see if I can bring up the map for the Ring of Fire.
Yeah, all right. I don't know what you want me to talk about, but I'll try to do something. Let's see. I don't know, Rob. I don't know if it's all native land up there. I'm not sure. Remember, natives don't own land in Canada, so Well, that it may not be entirely true anymore because they started, I believe it was in BC, they started giving natives private property rights for their land that was reserves. So natives don't own land. They have no land ownership in Canada. What they do have is land use rights. That's what they have. This was explained to me by a chief down here on how we have more rights than they do to the land because we can actually buy and own property. So we have ownership where they have just land use rights. Is that it, Ed? Alrighty, I guess not. Let's see what else we got here on the screen. Don't mind me looking to the side because my screen's over here because I broke my other monitor, so I only got my one monitor. It's a big giant monitor. It's like 70 inches, so I gotta look at it to the side. Don't mind me.
Can you see my map?
I see the map. It's tiny though. It's like really small. You're gonna have to make it a little bigger.
Do you see my mouse pointer?
Nope.
Damn it. Anyways, Thunder Bay is here. This is top of Lake Superior. Bottom above the M, that's Sault Ste. Marie. That's North Bay above the E in Report. So this place is way, way, way up here. There's the bottom of James Bay. I'll zoom out and then I'll zoom back in again. So that's the Ring of Fire. Sault Ste. Marie, Toronto, Detroit, Windsor, Ottawa, Montreal's here. Thunder Bay's up here. It's way the hell up here. Now, why should we care about this? Well, there's a lot of nickel up there. There's a lot of molybdenum, cobalt. There's a lot of good metals up there, ores. And what's been happening here is the natives, there's one settlement out here. It's about 100 miles, 200 miles to the east. There's another one out to the west. Martin River. So all these bands are complaining, oh, we want the jobs. We don't want the water pollution. So they keep holding the government up for hostage and the developers up for hostage. It's all been prospected out. There's been people that have been buying up the properties to bring in a railway line. Now, that's an American company. So they're going to ship this down either to Sault Ste. Marie or Thunder Bay. And apparently a decision was made to send it down to Sault Ste. Marie because then they can get it right in the States. There's refineries and mills there already. So the people in Thunder Bay were pissed off. The natives of Martin River were pissed off. They were chartering planes with our tax dollars to go up there to protest. And so it's just turned into a whole shit show. And then they keep changing. The band leaders keep changing every 3 or 4 years. And then they got to go do more deals and renegotiate. And that's why this thing never got off the ground. Would have been a huge boom for the Ontario economy. Absolutely. Is there American companies that own property or claims up there that have staked them and spent millions of dollars doing test drilling? Absolutely. But they've never gotten production rights as of yet because the natives are pissing around. They won't allow an airport to be built. It's just causing a stink and holding the government, holding these companies hostage. And then you wonder why we can't get any economic growth happening here. Well, that's what's actually going on in the Ring of Fire. Is there anyone living there? No, there's no one living there for miles and miles and miles. Nobody hunts there, nobody fishes there, except for the miners that actually work there locally and that do the diamond drilling to get the test cores out. So very, very good resource. Has yet to be developed because the natives between the various bands are fighting because it's pretty close to the border between the two major bands. Attawapiskat and Martin River, I believe, are the two bands that are fighting over it. And there could be another one out farther west. and they did quite well because they've got the diamond. De Beers put up a diamond mine, so a few natives got jobs. A lot of people got paid off. Natives got paid off to allow it, and that's just the world we live in these days. Comment?
Yeah, I don't. You know, in a way, I don't. I see where the natives are coming from, but trust me, they're in there like a dirty shirt too. They don't mind making the money. We've seen it with the green energy projects, which are, I'm talking wind and solar. You see, you know, Honda Shawnee are the ones that are doing that a lot. They've actually the Six Nation and Grand River Corporation has went in and actually bought these wind projects. So, you know, you gotta ask yourself, that's a lot of damn money. Where are they getting all this money? And this is where my problem with the natives comes from. And that's not a problem with the natives. I shouldn't say that. It's a problem with their leadership, and that's a huge problem. Clear across Canada. Doesn't matter if it's First Nation, Six Nation, or whatever, because that money is not being shared with their people on the reservation. So none of that's being shared. They're, you know, the chiefs are keeping the money for themselves. They don't even know where the money goes. All these trillions of dollars they've gotten over the years, it's nowhere to be found. But if I'm sure they would allow it to happen if there was some way that they had part ownership in there, or they would get some money out of that. But the problem that I have is that it's foreign countries. I don't give a crap if the resources should go out, of course, because that's one way we're making money. But why do we have the U.S.? Why don't we have any Canadian companies up there? Why don't we have the Canadians doing that? So it is Canadian jobs. It is money going to Canadians and Canadian companies. And I'll tell you why. Because business cannot survive in Ontario. They have made it so bad that the price of doing business is way too costly. This is why we're losing all of these businesses. This is why they're all leaving Ontario and Canada in general, period. It's not because of Trump tariffs or any stupid shit like that. The real reason is government is raking everybody over the coals, and no business is going to stay here. Of course, they're all going to take off to Mexico and wherever else they can go that they're going to get a better freaking buy, because they will not survive here. They'll go tits up. They'll go bankrupt. That'll be it.
You know, it's funny that you would mention that. I was talking to a buddy of mine just this week. He was running the numbers. A friend of his, guy's a really good cook, makes amazing Italian sandwiches, amazing pastries, good coffee, good produce. You can buy really good pasta there. It's pricey, but they're running the numbers, and it's just him, and he's got some friends helping him for free, and he's got a reasonably low rent. But he's been in business now for about 2 months, and he still can't make ends meet. He's still losing money. What does that tell you? Why is he losing money? Input costs are too expensive. The price, we got competition. If you use good product and use, say, good meat and good pizza sauce, or if you make your own, he makes his own flour. All the pizzas, it's like fresh flour. Even the footballs, Panzeratos are like $25, but they're literally, they're bigger than my head. They're huge. So it's not bad value, but he can't make money, and he's just working his ass off for what? By the time he's taxed, HST, oh, they say, oh, we pay the HST. No, it's money coming out of people's pockets.
And don't forget the forced wages, the minimum wage. What is it now? $17 an hour?
Okay, but why does the minimum wage have to be $17 an hour? I'll tell you why. Because we're taxed and taxed and taxed and taxed and taxed. So even if you're getting $17 an hour, it's barely a livable wage. You're gonna be able to save money to buy a house one day? Good luck. And even when you buy that house, property tax, $400 to $500. Here it's like $5,000, $10,000. a year. You know,
Yeah.
all the taxes.
There's just no way, no way. So what people don't understand is, and look at property tax. Everything's skyrocketed. That's what's causing your rent to go up. It's not. You know how many times I hear it's the landlord, this greedy landlord. They just no, it's not. It's the freaking greedy government taxing this shit at everyone. You know, you see what they want to do? They want to tax every single house. They have come right out and said it. They don't want you to own homes, so they're getting rid of home ownership because they want to be a complete net zero. Well, guess what? If it's government that owns your home, it doesn't mean it's going to be net zero. But this is what's happening. Taxes, we're being taxed to death. We've seen during COVID, we've seen all the bureaucrats at the municipalities and everything double, triple their freaking wages. You know, while we stayed home, couldn't do anything, people lost their jobs, lost their business, lost everything, except for them, of course. And then they raise everything because we got to pay now to make up for all this increase on their wages.
Oh, I'm looking at here in the private chat. We got some oddballs in the chat. Anyways,
Yes, bring 8 Ball. He's cool, and no Jim, not horny right now.
Jim Leva.
Jim's all right. He's down here.
You guys got some weird animals down there. Are these people or what?
No, they're not people, man. They're all savages. All of them, they're savage, except for 8 Ball. He's an animal.
Anyways, yeah, you know, as far as being in business, I could still be in business today. Why? What for? Seriously, why? It's almost impossible to make any money. And the only people that are really making money are the huge multinationals that are getting the government grants. Construction is down to, most recent stat I heard is down 78% from last year. Or house sales is down 78% from last year. Gee, you think we're in a recession?
Well, you know what? Actually, that's funny that you bring construction up because over here they're building 5,000 homes, all brand new homes. So they got a big chunk of it. It's built, and they still got a huge chunk that they're building. And then during the winter, they stopped all construction. And guess what? They haven't started yet. We're having temperatures. Today we were like 26 down here, man. It's like Florida of Ontario, okay? We're at 26 today. There's not one bit of construction going on. The ground's not frozen. It's like, I don't know what's going on. Everything's just stopped.
Well, I know the Carpenters Union is renegotiating their contract. They did this about 4 or 5 years ago, also when they had to renegotiate the contracts. So, but here's what really sucks. Apparently, the builders and the sales staff are saying sales have dropped off a cliff. Nobody's buying these houses. Why?
I don't know why, Ed, but that's not true where I'm at. They're selling like crazy. Nothing stays for sale longer than 3 days. And all the brand new ones going up, they can't build them fast enough. They're being bought.
Well, I know in Milton, sales are horrendous. The condo market has fallen flat. There's no one's buying condos. There's a lot of empty condos. You're muted.
Yeah, condos are garbage is what I was saying. There's no way you'd want. They're the dumbest thing. They're the greatest thing for government because the municipalities are usually the ones putting condos up because they're making constant big bucks off of them. But to buy a condo, you got to be stupid because you don't really own it. You can get kicked out of there anytime they want from the condo board. So and you're paying rent in the form of maintenance fees and all your other garbage that you got to pay. So it's just bullshit. It's a bullshit. Nice racket for them, but bullshit for you.
And the municipalities make money hand over fist because you're taxed by the square foot of the condo, even though it's up in the sky, right? Yes.
Yeah, of course, and of course it's crazy. Like they can't. They, so they can't charge you for the land that it's on, right? So aside of the maintenance fee, which is really your rent, and they gotta bring up the square footage of your condo. That's the only other way. They'll come up with all sorts of ingenious ways to rape you of your money.
Yeah. So meanwhile, who do you think is going to win the election on Monday? Is it going to be Mark Carnage or Millhouse?
So, look, pay no attention to the polls or what the media's saying. The media's backing Carney because Carney said he's going to pay double what Trudeau paid them. So they want the money. So they're going to do everything they can. It's going to be a landslide in the Conservative. It's the same thing they had done when Kathleen Wynne was on her way out and Doug Ford was in. They were doing the same thing. Kathleen Wynne's ahead of the PCP, and then it comes to election day, they lost party status. That's how bad it was, and I predict the same thing here. I just want to do everything I possibly can to prevent anyone from voting for Polyev or Carney because I don't want them to have a majority. That's the worst thing we can have again.
Well, we had a minority with Trudeau with the NDP, and look at all the damage they did.
Yeah, but they won't be able to do that now because the NDP is probably going to lose their party status. They'll be lucky if they get 2 seats, and that's how bad they've done. So I don't think the other parties, they got a little bit more of a brain in their shoulders and their heads than Jags Meat Curry Balls does.
So I also heard a stat that the voting, early voting has doubled since the last election.
More people than ever are out voting, and the early polls are showing this. Yeah, absolutely. I wonder what the other polls. I really wish to God we would have like at least 90%, if not 100% of people voting, because that's what's destroying us all. It's this 20%, 30 on a good day that vote and decide elections. That's really a sad thing.
Okay, you're assuming that they're going to run this election honorably and properly. I know that early elections, the people take the ballot boxes home.
Nah, they don't do that. They can't be doing that. If they are, I'd be reporting that shit. They can't go anywhere.
They are doing that. They're taking the ballot boxes home for safekeeping.
No, they're not allowed to do that. They're not supposed to leave those buildings. Where is this happening?
I know it's happening in the GTA.
Well, if you know where they are, I'd be putting complaints to Elections Canada. I'd be getting a hold of them right away and getting evidence of it too.
Elections Canada is part of the government. You think they're gonna?
Don't matter. It don't matter. You need that there because if it ever gets challenged, you need that paper trail.
Look, even Chris Sky said the Toronto election where Olivia Chow became mayor, even though she doesn't know how to speak English, she became the mayor. Her opponent was the one that actually won. Chris Sky knew this. He took the whole damn thing to court. Judge did not want to hear it.
That's right, and that kind of stuff you're not going to hear it. And if since you're Chris Sky, there's going to be a bias there. But that aside, in municipal elections, it happens all the time. There's underhanded shit that goes on. Yes, as a matter of fact, in West Lincoln, we had a counselor here, Chichuk, and I don't know if she still is one or not, but she was Kathleen Wynne's campaign team, and she was so happy to be part of that. She couldn't stop talking about it. But I'd done some digging into her, and there was another city that she came from. She was, can't remember, somewhere high up, but she got caught with hiding ballots in a municipal election and not having them accounted for. And then somehow she ends up in rural West Lincoln out of all the places in Ontario and only there for a short time and immediately elected as council. That's where I can't figure out, but I know what they're doing. I do know what they're doing. I don't have an evidence of it, but That's a way that we can also get ourselves elected. That's another conversation we'll have to have in private. But yeah.
Well, interesting. So you know how to rig the election? Because I know Mark Carnage is going to rig the election in his favor. Whether he's got enough people behind him, whether they can rig it strong enough to give himself a majority, that is yet to be seen. Nothing's ever come out with these Dominion voting machine scandals and the software behind it, and the fact that you hook it up to Wi-Fi, the fact that a little kid was able to hack into it and change the vote. We know these voting machines were rigged in the States. I think it's going to happen here. I think the vote is going to be rigged for this next federal election. And I think there's just a big freaking game. Democracy has been dead in Canada since Trudeau got in.
Well, the Dominion machines being altered was done the first year. I remember they were showing us candidates. Elections Ontario was giving us demonstrations of how the machines work and all this stuff. But I think it was the day after they had a high school student who was able to be outside of the building and alter the election results. A high school student.
Yeah, it's ripe for corruption. I'd like to see paper ballots. I'd like to see hand counting. I'd like to see scrutineers counting those votes. Then I know it's a real election. And unfortunately, this is being kept hidden. The lying mainstream media is not telling people about this. And people are saying, "Oh, they'd never lie." Sure, they lie. They lie all the time. Look what they said about the Freedom Convoy 2022. It was an occupation. Like hell, it was an occupation.
Yeah, and look, so when I run for office there in provincial elections, I have my scrutineers. Everybody's got scrutineers. But the problem is with these machines, and I'll give you a good example of what happened at this election. There was an outbreak of flu at a home, so of course they're declaring lockdowns and everything now ever since the convict garbage. So nobody's allowed in there. So the Elections Ontario sends ballot kits over. So ballot kits are just blank ballots. There's no names of the elected on it or anything. So the workers at the homes have to fill the ballots out by hand, and then they have to get the people who are in the homes to they have to tell them who the candidates are, and they mark the ballot. Well, we have absolute zero scrutineers there because they're locked down. So how do we know? Remember the BC election, there was a similar situation, but in the House there, the workers were filling out the ballots for the people they wanted. So the patients or the people who were there, they didn't get. And what if they're like got dementia or something, Alzheimer's, or they don't know what the fuck's going on from Jack? How do they know who it is? How do they, So there's no scrutineers. There's no, and I'm not saying anything illegal happened or anything was done, but it leaves that door open. It leaves that opening for abuse to happen, like it did in BC. But so you can't make this shit up.
Anyways, we're down to our last minute, Stefanos. Final 30 seconds before we're out.
Yeah, all right. Just make sure in elections, get involved. If you need to be, who cares what party you're with? Get involved. Get out there. Frickin' vote. Stop letting these communist unions with the NDP dictate your fate, or the other commie unions with the liberals dictate your fate, or the PCs dictate your fate. Get out there, start voting, and learn. Argentina took them 135 years to learn to vote a party that's never been voted before, because that's going to be what changes and saves your asses.
All right, guys, if you're going to vote, bring a pen with you. Leave the pen there. They want us to use pencil for a reason. Easy to doctor the vote, isn't it, if it's pencil? But with a pen, nope. Anyways, see you next week. Ciao.